Well, hello once again, as we hopefully have gotten those technical difficulties sorted out. Not really seen that happen before while I'm commentating. All the same, I'm back in, and we are watching the boss man Tanakog, although he has already set a lap, a 114.211. Let's take a look at our tires, make sure that the weather conditions have not changed. Still calling for the intermediates, not yet a upgrade to the, or a downgrade maybe, to the wet weather compound. So let's take a look at Rage Hunter now in the Haas. Now we will go ahead and take this time and update you on our point situation. And as you know, this points battle, it has been raging all season long between MDJ and Rage Hunter. MDJ, of course, he hit the ground running, winning the very first race in Bahrain when Rage Hunter was not able to start. But after last week, we see MDJ on top with 290 points. Rage Hunter in second with 280. Now in third place is Calvin with 174. He is no longer in contention for this championship battle. We have only tonight's Grand Prix and then next week's sprint race and Grand Prix to decide it all. So Calvin well over 100 points behind Rage Hunter, or MDJ, excuse me, not in contention for this championship, but he still has something to celebrate because, along with Rage Hunter, he was able to win the Constructors title for Haas, 470 points to AlphaTauri's 323. I'm hoping that my math is not incorrect here. And I don't know, for the first time ever, maybe it's not, but Haas should have already have that Constructors title clinched, and they have done a fantastic job. Of course, AlphaTauri in second, Aston Martin in third, then fourth, Alfa Romeo with Williams in fifth. Rage Hunter just about to complete his flying lap, and a bit of a wiggle there as Calvin goes quickest, a 113.479. Let's see what Rage Hunter can do. Just around 10 minutes remaining in the qualifying session. And as Rage Hunter crosses the line, P6 a 114.433. Take a look at Mansell now in the Williams. No time for him just yet. Calvin, Cassidy, Janeji, your top three, with Sonikock and Luke Bailey, your top five. Couple of quarters to go for Mansell. Looks like there's some traffic up ahead. Let's see what's going on there. Traffic should be moving out of the way. There you go. That looks like a Haas. That could actually be Rage Hunter who's diving into the pits. Rage Hunter, of course, P6 at the moment. Let's see where Mansell goes as Janeji goes quickest to 113.315. Mansell across the line. He goes to a 113.509. Good enough for third at the moment. Lap time starting to come in. Of course, I'm just in time as you see our only DNF of the qualifying session. Two other drivers have yet to set a time, MDJ and KXI. Very surprised to see MDJ not setting a time yet, although he might be having some communication issues if I understand correctly. He is, of course, as we said, in that very tight championship battle between him and Rage Hunter. 10 points separating those two drivers tonight. We got Martin on a flying lap in the Ferrari, but he goes quickest, a 113.024. A stellar time from Martin. Still waiting to see if we can get those two other drivers to come out for a lap, but still Martin on the pole right now, 0.3 of a second quicker than Janeji. Martin, of course, last week during the French Grand Prix had a brief opportunity perhaps to place on the podium. He was certainly contending for the podium for the majority of the race. A time penalty bit him in the rear late in the going, so he was not able to capture that third and final position on the podium. But all the same, Martin showing very strong results and potential last week. Luke Bailey looks like he is on another flying lap. A 114.2, the best one he's laid down so far. Still very curious to see, though, if we are going to have a dry race or not. I would hope for a dry race, personally, simply because that would make it so interesting, because it looks as though the standings here in qualifying are just a little bit jumbled up. You've got MDJ potentially starting all the way in the back unless he gets out there for a lap, and that's really going to make that championship battle interesting today. And Luke Bailey, P5, a 113.544. Martin retires from the session. Was that in the pits? It appears to be. So Martin, he's happy with his lap. Decides that qualifying is over for him as Mansell went second quickest, a 113.178. So he stayed out there for a few laps. Luke Bailey, oh, a big lockup there you saw on the right front. But is he on a flying lap, or is he going to pull it into the pits? Still no MDJ, but KXI is out there now. Oh, and KXI has him validated, so he's going to have to go again. Still waiting to see if we can get MDJ out there. KXI really taking it easy around this hairpin here. So that's where Luke Bailey had the lockup. Of course, he didn't go off the track. All the same, it scrubbed off a lot of speed, and Luke Bailey cannot afford to have speed scrubbed off already in P6 with a 113.5, and he's half a second approximately behind the pole time. KXI, we're not sure how he stacks up with the rest of the field just yet, but we will get our answers here sooner rather than later. A little bit of traffic up ahead that looked to be the Alpine of Sonicock, or it could be PSI Legends, actually. And Cassidy goes quickest, a 112.675. Looks like the track might be drying up just a little bit, but it is still raining. It is still raining as KXI goes to a 114.135. Good enough for P10 at the moment. Sonicock on a lap, the boss man in the Alpine. Around the hairpin, nice and easy. We ride on board, and this track definitely is drying up. You saw it raining on the front straightaway, but here in the second sector, it is not raining at all. Once he gets down to the hill, it looks a little bit hazy, but still no rain that I can tell. Oh, there's the rain. He literally drove into the rain. So about half of this racetrack is raining, half of this track is in the dry. That really makes it interesting for these drivers to figure out what to do here. Of course, they've already been out on track. They cannot make any setup changes, or very limited setup changes, rather. So now they just have to dance with what they have. Let's see what the boss man can do as he goes across the line, and it is P4, a 113.162 for Sonicock. Just over 3.5 minutes remaining, waiting to see who else is going to come out for a flying lap. We got Janeji on an out lap. There's his teammate today, Luke Bailey. 113.2 for him and a 113.3 for Janeji. Janeji now in the third sector, so he will start his flying lap here. This could potentially be his final one. Out of the final corner, Janeji on a flying lap now. He's going to have to beat a 112.675. This track definitely getting a little bit quicker as you see Mansell up there, a 112.8 now, P2 for him. Martin's 113.0. Well, that's good enough for third at the moment, but I have a feeling that is going to change drastically in the next couple of minutes. Calvin racing a 112.641. So the times are coming in, and this is the dry part of the track, and you can almost see a bit of a dry lane even forming on the racing surface. Now you see a little bit more water there as he does drive straight into the rain. You can see the water droplets on the camera lens. So, oh, Ginetti very loose, hangs onto it, but he backs out of the lap now. He does have time to go again for one more lap. So Ginetti likely will be going for one more lap. MDJ looks like he's not going to go at all. Actually, Ginetti, if he has a good lap, will have time for another flying lap as he crosses the line now. But he's going to have to be very careful. You see that it's the first and third sectors that this track is really wet, where they're really dealing with rain. But once they get into the second sector, then it just stops. There you see, the rain is stopped. He's out of the rain. It's a somewhat dry, certainly drying racetrack here. And you're going to see him run straight into the rain here as he comes out of the corner. There you go, more water droplets. And this next corner is where he got loose last time. He's going to have to be very careful, and there you see it, very much taking it easy into that corner. So he can continue his lap. Will he go for another flying lap after this? Time will tell. 40 seconds remaining in the qualifying session. He's got time if he wants to. Mansell and Cassidy also on flying laps now. We're going to watch Mansell here in just a moment. MDJ on his out lap, so he did decide to come out in just the last minute as Ginetti goes to P3. Mansell now in P4 at the moment of 112.871. Starting a flying lap, will he be able to knock Calvin off of that top spot? He's got a 112.641, Cassidy a 112.675. MDJ, we're going to take a look at him as well. So there is MDJ, just a little bit further back on track than Mansell, but he will have time for one and only one flying lap, and he's going to have to make it count. Mansell back on the wet part of the racetrack. Meanwhile, he's got a Haas behind him. Not sure if it's Rage or Calvin. Rage, of course, really needing a good starting spot here, but so is MDJ. At the moment, they're starting side by side, 10th and 11th, respectively. And Mansell just one more corner to go. A 112.8 is his best time so far. Can he knock Calvin off the top spot as Luke Bailey goes to second, a 112.511. Mansell goes to the pole, a 112.2, but then Rage Hunter, a 111.9. What about MDJ? What does he do as he crosses the line? It's P3, a 112.280. And Calvin. What can Calvin do? He is our last qualifier. Looks like he has abandoned the lap, so Calvin not going to be knocking his teammate off the pole. And, well, quite frankly, that's exactly what you would expect, is for Calvin to just not really fight Rage here too much. But Calvin is in prime position to help Rage because he is starting next to his championship competitor of MDJ. Could we see a little bit of teamwork here today? Of course, Mansell and MDJ, they're both in the Williams today. So it is a Haas and Williams front row lockout. And your official starting lineup for the Speed Force Racing GP2 Series Austrian Grand Prix: Rage Hunter on the pole, Mansell in second, MDJ in third, Calvin in fourth, Luke Bailey in fifth, Cassidy in sixth, Sonicok in seventh, Ginetti in eighth, Martin in ninth, 10th is PSI Legends, KXI in 11th, and 12th is I'm Just in Time. 10 points separating Rage and MDJ, but only one position separating them on the racetrack. Meanwhile, each of them have their teammate fairly close by to help render assistance. Now, hopefully, we're going to get a dry race here for the Grand Prix. Only time will tell, and as we arrive at the paddock, it is going to be dry, at least a dry start. Not sure if we're going to expect any rain later on in the Grand Prix, but a dry start, I'd say that these drivers are welcoming that sunshine. They actually have the benefit of the good old DRS to help them make overtakes, and they don't have to worry about slipping and sliding too much around there. So the race is about to start, have our formation lap, then we'll jump straight into our Grand Prix Rage Hunter, going to be starting from the pole. But will he be able to stay there at the end of the race? A championship on the line. Neither driver can win the championship today. It does not matter where the other finishes in respect to the other. They cannot win. So this championship battle will continue to next week at Silverstone. However, we get a little bit of a teaser of what's to come this week in Austria. And looking at the tire choices, looks like most drivers going for the medium compound, save for 3 going on the hard. So a couple of them trying to do that long first stint, but likely going to be a medium to hard strategy or vice versa race today, save for any safety cars that may throw a spanner into the works later on. A 36-lap race around this circuit. I was actually about to call it the Circuit of Red Bull, and, well, I know better than that. This is not Circuit Paul Ricard. This is not Circuit of the Americas. This is the Red Bull Ring. Circuit of the Red Bull. I now like that. Petition to change the name. I'm joking, actually. I don't actually like that for this track, but all the same, I can quit stalling because they only have one more corner to go before they park on the front straightaway, and we can get this race underway. It was a Haas and Williams front row lockout as far as the top 4 positions are concerned. Luke Bailey back there in 5th. Well, he gets a front row to all the action. And Mansell actually parking a little bit crooked there in his box. Not sure if it's actually going to let him start that way. I do not believe so. But as the rest of the drivers find their appropriate positions on the grid, we are just about ready to go. And you hear those engine driving, you hear those itchy pedal feet, the drivers watching the lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights in the air. No red lights, and we are green for the Speed Force Racing GP2 Series Austrian Grand Prix in Mansell. Not a good start after starting catty corner in his box. MDJ quickly gets alongside of him, but which Williams driver is going to prevail? It's going to be MDJ in 3rd, so Mansell in 2nd, Calvin back there in 4th. Rage Hunter already a second ahead. Calvin trying desperately to get by these Williams drivers. These Williams drivers, though, pretty much just being a rolling roadblock to Calvin, as MDJ now gets into the 2nd position, but he's going to find a little bit of resistance, at least from his teammate of Mansell on the outside. Mansell, though, some contact with Calvin. My goodness, or at least close. It might not have been contact, but there was a lot of evasive action going on there. You saw Mansell turn in, and Calvin was filling that hole very quickly. It looked as though Mansell tried to get away from Calvin as soon as he realized that the Haas was there. Now, if we take a look at Calvin, we'll see if there's any wing damage, and I can't see any that's visible, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't have a small bit of wing damage, but he's staying out on track for now, so perhaps everything is okay for the Haas, but he did lose position down to P5 now, as no surprise, Rage Hunter quickest on lap 1. So now that it's calmed down a little bit, we see MDJ actually gaining on Rage Hunter a little bit. Now, MDJ starting on those hard compound tires, he's going to be a little bit slower in these opening laps, but we're slowly going to see those hard compound really come in and get some speed. However, that should be around the time that Rage Hunter will start thinking about pitting for his own set of parts. So you see the issue here. MDJ stays out longer. Rage Hunter has the benefit of the undercut, but MDJ pits, and he gets onto that faster compound tire. It's just a matter of which driver is going to be able to make the strategy work. There's not one set strategy that's going to win you that race no matter what. You still have to have the pace. If MDJ does not have the pace to keep up with Rage on these hard compound tires and these opening laps, stay within DRS and lets him get out very far ahead, then it stands to reason that MDJ just could not make that strategy work when maybe another driver could. But you saw MDJ briefly have the fastest lap until I believe it was Calvin that actually took it from him. So it appears as though MDJ might be just a touch faster than Rage, but you saw there that Rage is just flirting with being a second ahead of Calvin, or MDJ, excuse me, not much more, not much less. And something has happened to either Sonicok KXI or both, as there's been a big jump in position there. So we'll go ahead and take a look at them, or maybe it was PSI Legends. There's KXI and PSI Legends. Sonicok not too far ahead of them, about 4 seconds ahead of them on track, so might have had a little bit of incident there between those two drivers. Back to the battle for the lead, though. Rage Hunter, MDJ, and Mansell, your top three, and MDJ 1.3 seconds behind Rage Hunter now, as we look out the onboard of Mansell to his teammate of MDJ up there in P2. Cassidy slowly but surely closing in on Mansell there in the fourth spot there in that Alfa Romeo, as KXI is retired. That is not in the pits either. That's on track. So KXI, something's happened. He's crashed off track just before the final corner. Will that be a safety car? It does not appear to be. No VSC, no safety car at the moment, and I don't think it's going to be upgraded to. Oh, and Cassidy just about overshot that corner, got very close to the gearbox of Mansell, but was able to avoid some contact. I think Cassidy did not expect the run that he was going to get into that corner. Had to quickly back out of it. And while we're watching this, not only is MDJ getting further ahead of Mansell, but also Rage Hunter getting slightly further ahead of MDJ. Now, here is my theory. And this is just a theory, is that MDJ and Mansell, they're communicating with one another. And Mansell is sort of playing a blocker car right now. He is letting MDJ get out ahead so that he doesn't have DRS. And if anyone passes Mansell, they won't have DRS on MDJ. So pretty much Mansell is being our own Sergio Perez today for MDJ, trying to help him win this championship. Of course, as we said, no driver can win this championship today. It will go to Silverstone, no matter where either of them finish, either of them being Rage Hunter and MDJ. But could you imagine going into the final round next week with even points? It's 10 points entering this race today, and not exactly sure where it would end up if they finish as they run. Trying desperately to get a run on Mansell. You saw how much he was able to gain, but just not close enough to really make up the move. 1.4 seconds meanwhile separating MDJ and Rage, down to 1.3, 1.2 now. MDJ really trying to force the issue here, get close to Rage, as Cassidy trying to get close to his teammate of Mansell. as Rage Hunter crosses the line. It is now lap 7 of 36 laps here, so 30 laps to go in the Grand Prix. Not sure when to expect pit stops. I'm going to assume less than 10 laps for those drivers starting on the mediums. I'd say about 15 if I had to guess for the drivers starting on the hards. Of course, it was only 3 drivers who started on the hards, as now we see Cassidy going around the outside of Mansell, but Mansell quickly making quick work of him again as Cassidy goes way too wide, loses 2 spots, off and into the grass, back onto the track, make that 3 spots as Calvin goes around him. Cassidy tried it, but just did not work for him. Mansell retains the 3rd spot for now. Janeji putting a lot of pressure on him as we watch Calvin try to get close to these 2. Janeji very close to Mansell, might have an opportunity going into turn 3. 0.4 of a second separating the drivers. Janeji needs every thousandth that he can muster. Mansell using a little bit of curve there. You saw some dust get kicked up, just barely touching that grass. Janeji will have an opportunity, but can he make it stick? No, he can't, as they go through the hairpin. Oh, and Janeji gets into the back of Mansell. A small bit of contact, but they both get away clean. Well, that's about as much contact as you'd want to make with these cars, so I suppose Janeji did it perfectly. Now another retirement. PSI Legends retirement in the pits. So 2 DNFs, 10 drivers left on the board. So Janeji, as he gets closer and closer to Mansell. MDJ is getting closer and closer to Rage. As much as I want to watch this battle with Janeji, we've got to switch to MDJ here in just a moment, who is going to have DRS on Rage. We do have a slow car, though. Who is that? Sonicok. That is Sonicok, a slow car who has pulled off the track out of the way of the leaders. So good sportsmanship there. Not sure what's wrong with the boss man. And actually, no, that might not have been Sonicok. I actually believe that was the AI-controlled car of PSI Legends. All the same, MDJ and Rage Hunter, no change in position, but MDJ 0.2 of a second behind Rage. One thing I'm very surprised at seeing today, though, is we're not actually seeing a lot of overtakes going into the hairpin like we would expect. Now, maybe these drivers just aren't wanting to take any unnecessary risks early on, and that would be very wise. All the same, it just doesn't seem like the DRS has the strength that it should, and I'm not sure what could have changed or what would have changed. But that is such a detriment to these drivers that are stuck following the leader, quite literally, in the case of MDJ. So you see the rear wing open, but he just does not make up enough ground. Now, granted, it is very possible that Rage Hunter is deploying his battery down the straightaway to try to mitigate the advantage that MDJ has with the DRS. All the same, you would expect an overtake here soon as MDJ goes around the outside, can't make the move stick. He certainly tried it. And now we have another retirement in the pits. This time it is Sonicok. So 9 drivers remaining in the race. Quickly go back to Janeji and Calvin now, as something has happened to Mansell. So unfortunately, Mansell must have went for a spin or something, because it was not pit stop. So it's Janeji and Calvin, 3rd and 4th at the moment. But MDJ once again going to have a run at Rage Hunter. What will he be able to do? And look at that red light flashing on the back of Rage Hunter. So my theory was correct. He was deploying that battery, and he's pretty much out of battery as he goes wide, but so does MDJ. My goodness, both drivers go wide, but MDJ not as bad. Rage Hunter, how many spots does he lose? He loses so many, and oh my goodness, we've got another technical issue. Okay, not sure if this is on my end or not. So we're going to try one thing and see if that works. Well, maybe it's working. Truthfully, this is the weirdest issues that I believe we've ever had. No. Or yes, I'm sorry, guys. I have absolutely no idea what's going on here. So I guess we just sit here and wait for a moment. Hopefully we can get back in and watch this race. All the same, the last thing that you saw was MDJ making a move on Rage Hunter. So it looked to me like Rage Hunter just overshot the corner a little bit, and MDJ sort of got tunnel vision and zeroed in on the back of Rage and practically followed him off track, as now we certainly do have an issue, as you saw. And no thank you, EA Play. I don't want to do any of that. So one more time we will try this, but unfortunately it looks like I cannot get back into this session, guys. So I have no choice but to end the stream here. My apologies if this might have been on my end. If it was, then I can't get back in. If this was on the game's end, then we will have another stream starting here soon, but I believe it's on my end, and unfortunately the drivers cannot send me an invite while they're racing. So I've tried to use my old invite. I cannot get into the session. My apologies. The stream has to end here, but I hope you enjoyed what we got to see. And until next time, good morning, good evening, good day, good night, wherever you are in the world. Have fun, and goodbye.